So Sonic Frontiers Update 2 has been released to the masses, and it seems like a lot of people have been enjoying their time with this update. And in this video we will be reviewing Update 2 for Sonic Frontiers, and is it actually good? Did it actually add meaningful content to the game? You may have tried it for yourself, but we're going to dive deep into this. And I'm going to give my takes and say, was this worth the wait? And is this worth our time? And if you haven't even tried this yet and you're wondering if you should even bother, welcome to the right video. So I'm going to be honest to you guys, there's more than just a spin dash in what was advertised in this update. So before we get into all of it, hey, hold up a minute. 75% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel, so why don't you consider subscribing if you've been enjoying the content? You may be like, hey, this might be too early in the video, but 43,000 of you guys keep coming back to these videos, so I'm talking to you. Why don't you hit the subscribe button? Thanks guys. So I'd say the main key features of this update were Sonic's birthday celebration, which changes the environment to be all birthday themed, and a lot of the objects have different colors and textures to them to give like a nice little birthday theme. It's pretty cool. So you'll most definitely see that throughout this entire video because I'll be using that texture pack for this whole video. The other key feature is the Open Zone Challenge, which is a cool little challenge where you go around collecting orbs that brings your chain gauge up. And the more chain gauge you have, the more points you can earn by just doing things around the world, such as literally grinding on rails, hitting dash pads, homing, attacking balloons, fighting enemies. Pretty much anything in the game that you would think would give you points, gives you points. You chain enough actions together and you can get up to an S rank. And getting all S ranks on this challenge is actually how you acquire the spin dash, which I'm going to be quite honest, I don't like that the spin dash was locked to this, because yes, the open zone challenge is fun, but locking it behind that is kind of a tedious grind to go and find every single one of those open zone challenges and get an S rank for each one. I'm not a fan of where some of these are placed because the routing to get an S rank can be a little harder for some of them, so it can take a little bit longer to unlock the spin dash. But we'll talk more about the spin dash later, as it's a pretty big part of the update, and probably the biggest part of the update. Another thing that was also included in this update was the addition of New Game Plus, and you can unlock New Game Plus by beating the game, and if you already have a beaten game save file, just fight the final boss again and you can do New Game Plus. It'll carry all of your old stuff over to the next new game so you can replay the game. Really happy they included a New Game Plus, but I kind of wish they did a little bit more, added more content, or added something that makes New Game Plus different, maybe making it harder or something, but I guess it's nice to have New Game Plus in general. And the last main part of this update that at least was talked about were the new Coco, and they're big Coco. And why does this matter? Because if you find and collect them, you can actually increase your boost gauge level. So you'll get more boost. Now what's cool about these new Coco is they added new platforming challenges around the world in order to reach these Coco. And some of these are really hard to get to, and it's kind of hard to figure out how to find some of the routing to get to these Coco. I spent at least 10 minutes trying to figure out how to get to one Coco in Kronos Island because I literally didn't know where to start. It's really interesting that they added new platforming around the world with this update. I would say this is a pretty big W for the update all around because I was surprised to see some of the intricacy of these platforming challenges. But yeah, there's a lot more to talk about, but out of those main updates, these were all pretty great additions, and I give it a really big thumbs up, and I think this actually was worthwhile for those main additions. Now, there's some other stuff that Sonic Team slipped within the game that they didn't really talk about until you start up the game. Guess what, guys? They did it. Sonic Team added momentum to Sonic's movement and incorporated it better than how it was before. So now there's a slider for deacceleration, and same thing with the jump. So that means Sonic will take longer to deaccelerate from running and jumping, meaning you can carry your momentum into your run and jump a lot more in this game and you'll fly a lot further. So they did it. They added momentum. And I'm happy to say it works pretty decently well. I would say there's not a whole lot of momentum on the basic run without the boost, but when you're boosting, Sonic most definitely does carry his momentum. You can press the boost button, hold forward and let go of the stick, and Sonic will keep running on his own, and he won't stop on a dime anymore when you let go of the control stick. And of course you have control of how much influence this has on Sonic by changing the slider in the setting. I can't believe they did it. I really can't believe Kishimoto went ahead and listened to people giving feedback and implemented that. Now, I wouldn't say it's perfect. It could be a lot better, but this is why Kishimoto said they're going to test it out now in Frontiers instead of just waiting to the next game to test everything out, which is honestly very smart. We get to play around a bit more with momentum, before we actually have to wait till the next game, and they can refine the momentum and physics for the next game. And it is by no means, again, perfect, but it's there and it's pretty good for what it is. And guess what? That feature also carries over to cyberspace. So now you have momentum and you're running and boosting in cyberspace. Now the controls for turning in cyberspace is still mid, but spin dashing in cyberspace actually makes controlling it a bit better. So I would rather spin dash than boost in cyberspace most of the time because you have a lot more control. And apparently you can even drift with the spin dash. So I'd say that's a pretty big W. Speaking of the spin dash, this spin dash is very interesting. At first it seemed like it was just going to be like Lost World. Mostly sticking to the ground, no momentum and flying off of ramps. But no, this spin dash actually has low gravity, meaning it will fly off of ramps. You can fly across the map with this spin dash super duper easily. It's honestly really fun just flying across the map. I will say it is pretty overpowered and does break a lot of the level design, if I'm being honest, in the open zone. You can kind of just go on a ramp and then charge up the spin dash and just fly up to a rail and get to a platform or whatever and do all kinds of crazy tricks. So that's why I would say it's overpowered, and it's definitely a after game DLC unlock thing, because if you had this during the main game when you first played through, you'd be breaking the game pretty much all the time. It is still very much a really fun tool to use, and I'm glad they implemented it into the game. Now, I wouldn't say this is exactly like Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2 Spin Dash. It's kind of like a hybrid between a lot of different kinds of spin dashes. It reminds me of Sonic Adventure 1's because you can kind of spam it. And then it also reminds me of Sonic Lost World Spin Dash because it's kind of infinite. But in this game, it goes off of the boost. But you could just give yourself infinite boost so that way you never run out of the spin dash. It's kind of interesting because it just is an amalgamation like I mentioned before. I would just say you have control over it almost the same way you have control over it in Sonic Lost World, but you can fly in the air kind of like how you can fly in the air in Sonic Adventure. But it also runs off of the boost. So it's like they put all three of them together in a pot and combined it to create the spin boost. And honestly guys, I think I'm a fan. Now, a lot of people may not be a fan of this, but I think for the type of game that Sonic Frontiers is, this makes a lot of sense for the spin dash to be the way it is. This isn't a level-based platformer where you're going through a bunch of levels that are like Sonic Adventure type levels, so you need a spin dash to accommodate with it. No, these are flat open zones or rocky mountains or volcanic canyons. I feel like this kind of spin dash makes sense because you're kind of traversing an open world. So you just need to go zip all over the place rather than try to be super specific trying to achieve some kind of platforming challenge, because a lot of the platforming challenges take place in the air with floating platforms, and it wouldn't really make a lot of sense if you want to just spin dash off of it. But you can use the spin dash in the platforming challenges, of course, but obviously you're not going to be spin dashing on rails. At the end of the day, the game isn't built for this option to be used. But I will say, for traversing, it is the best option in the game for traversing because you can fly through the air and reach heights that you couldn't before with the boost. And when it comes to cyberspace, it's nothing but an improvement for cyberspace as it makes controlling it better, and it's a better movement option, especially in 2D. So I'll say I'm overall a fan of this spin dash / spin boost. It's pretty good. I wouldn't say, again, it's true momentum because it's just low gravity when you're in the air for a short amount of time, but it's still getting the job done of having you fly through the air. And obviously, if they want to go further with these mechanics within the next Sonic game, from the ground up, the mechanics need to be based around this kind of stuff, because from the ground up, Sonic Frontiers isn't based around momentum-based physics. It's very much a game that has Sonic sticking to the ground doing combat and running over bumpy terrain. And again, that's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I enjoyed Frontiers for that. But the way they're trying to go now is a step in the right direction after listening to feedback. So they just need to go all the way for the next game. Don't hold back on that. But those are a lot of the main things that have been added to this game. And overall, I would give it an 8 out of 10 for an update. It was a pretty decent update. I think update 3 is going to blow us away with the content that they've been cooking up, and if you want to learn more about that, stay tuned by the end of this video so you can click the end card to take you to that video. But if you guys enjoyed this review, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, and like always, I will see you guys in the next one.
Well, whatever happens, happens.